We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Well, welcome. It's a Thursday night. My technique of starting the show with the audio didn't go as planned. Stupid computer. Good evening, gents. Good evening, Sam. Good evening, Jarrell. Good evening, Steve. Steve, how are you this evening down in Nashville, Tennessee?
Just fine. Finally got some rain today. Not much, but any will do. It's the first rain we've had all month.
Really?
So, yeah.
It's the last day of the month.
Exactly.
Well, happy to have you here. Glad to have you here, Steve. We're going to start talking about the Brownies and the the Los Angeles Chargers. I do that on purpose. I purposefully say San Diego because I miss San Diego Chargers. Well, how you doing? You're also down there in Nashville, though you live in a separate location from Steve.
About 10 minutes away. Not far. Not far at all.
Yeah.
A lot of Brown support down here, so it's a thick contingent.
I mean, who else are they going to support? The Titans?
Well, that's a fair point.
Yeah, then we could talk about that game. Patriots Titans. Ooh, that's your inmate game of the week. Only inmates would be forced to watch that.
Well, Jarrell, nice to have you here tonight, and Sam from Dallas, Texas, with his cowboy hat. Browns breakdowns. How you doing tonight, Sam?
Fine. We had almost rain. We got to sit there and watch the rain clouds go right around our house. I mean, you could literally watch them just go near. We didn't get hit, so we got no rain. It's been we might have gotten rain in the middle of the night, but it's been a while since we've gotten any rain. But it's been nice and cool. It feels amazing. It was like 91 a few days ago. Now it's around 82, so it's cooling down finally. Cooler. But we're just chilling out and disappointed that 2025's in 2 months. I don't know where this whole year went, but hoping the Browns can win again, obviously.
Well, happy Halloween to all of you. I was telling Steve prior to the show tonight that my son, my youngest Grantman, who's got the autism, he has a great amount of support, and one of his supervisors, the people that help him at one of the doggy daycares that he works at during the week, came over and took him out trick-or-treating with their nieces and nephews. So he had a great time. So always love seeing all the costumes and everything. I work at a school, so it was a festive day with staff and students. So did any of you get decked out today for Halloween?
Not really.
Not at all.
No.
They don't do that at your homeschooling there, Sam?
No, I didn't do anything for Halloween other than buy a bag of candy.
What were your favorite? Can you think of a favorite costume back in the day, like when you were a kid? Like, can any of you think
did.
of? Yeah.
I had this cool horror costume that I took off the mask after 5 minutes because it was uncomfortable. I had when I was really little, my mom and dad really loved this one. I was Spider-Manning because I lost the helmet or the mask for Spider-Man, so I wore a Spider-Man costume and then had a football helmet on top, and so my parents called me Spider-Manning since Peyton Manning was the quarterback of the Broncos at that time.
Oh, that's good.
But I don't remember that one, but I've had some cool costumes, but I'm just not a costume guy anymore.
No, they were talking about that
Expensive
on the, how old do you have to be to not go trick-or-treating? They were discussing that on one of the sports radio programs here in Cleveland. Somebody was saying when you're a teenager and you can grow a mustache, then you should stop, go trick-or-treating. So I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
I agree.
Yeah.
13 should be your cutoff level.
Yes. Steve, can you recall a costume back in the day?
Not when I was a kid, no. But our youngest niece here in Nashville, who's also my wife and I's godchild, Her name's Kate, and my wife's name's Karen, and she used to constantly call us Aunt Steve and Uncle Karen. So when she was little, my niece brought her, or my brother brought her and my other niece to our place to get some candy. They were just going to go around to, like my parents' house and that kind of stuff. So my wife and I dressed up as Aunt Steve and Uncle Karen. She freaked.
That's great.
She totally freaked. Well,
Jarrell, can you think of a moment in Halloween? Would you get decked out?
I wouldn't call it decked out, but I had a babysitter that was a cheerleader for the Falcons, and she got me Deion Sanders' practice jersey when he played for the Falcons, because I was growing up in Atlanta at the time.
Yeah.
And I went as prime time that year.
Nice. Very cool. Oh, I love it. Well, yeah, I was the standard
cheerleader as a babysitter.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
You won me at that. The costume
were you 14 when you were getting babies? Were you still 14 when you were?
I was probably 8 or 9, old enough to know, Hey, that's
what, Jarrell? Know what? Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. Wow. That just tops it. Folks, thanks for joining us here on the Fanatical Elfz Network. We just found out that Jarrell had a Atlantic Falcons cheerleader as his babysitter growing up in Atlanta. I think we should just stop the show now.
Yeah, that's it.
I think that's everybody. Sam, you got anything better than that? I mean, come on now, Sam. You always
Oh, he did. That was pretty good with the Spider Manning, but can't beat Jarrell. I'm sorry, John. We might as well just move on.
Yes. So the Browns got a win, guys. We're all excited about that. Cleveland fans are back in the win column. Lots of things to be happy about. Many of us have already discussed sort of what we saw, and I guess moving forward, we know that Jameis Winston's going to start this game against the Chargers. This is the game before our bye. We have a bye week after this, so the Browns will get a week off. Just generally speaking, how are we feeling going into this week and going into this game? Sam, you want to start? How are you feeling this week?
I am feeling fine. I think this is the best the Browns team has been this year. I know you probably could make an argument for week 1 where we had no idea what this team was going to look like was going to be the best. I think this is now with Nick Chubb back, the defense somewhat healthy. Everyone's mostly healthy. The offensive line is figuring itself out a little bit. You having not Deshaun Watson as the QBs helping, but the offensive line figuring their stuff out. The wide receiver core is good. We all knew the wide receivers were good. It was Watson that he just couldn't get the ball to the receivers. And then Nick Chubb is back. The defense is playing pretty good. I think this is what we more or less expected the Browns to look like, but they didn't. So I feel like right now I'm not going to. I have this game as a coin toss probably. I would say the Chargers have an advantage and probably will win. Then again, I had the Ravens whooping us last week, and obviously we saw how that went. But I should have predicted a win. I mean, come on, it's the Ravens. What are they going to do? Beat us? They're the Ravens. But I think it's we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if we win. I wouldn't be shocked if we lose. Again, probably a coin toss is you have a better chance of flipping a coin and guessing the game score from that than anything else.
Yeah. I like it. Jarrell, what do you think? You agree with Sam?
I think the Ken Dorsey thing, him calling plays, I think the offense had more rhythm. Seemed like they were trying to set certain things up. So I think that bodes well. But we were kind of talking about it before the show started. They're a better defense. Baltimore didn't have. They were a bottom feeder. That was the last pass defense in the league last week.
And they were missing some corners, right? Too.
And they were missing some corners. So you might have had some fool's gold there. Okay. But I still think the formula for this team is run the football, play action, and then from there you can get into whatever you want to get into. And so we'll see.
Okay.
I still don't know who would win, but
right.
I think they got a chance. They got a chance.
What's the Chargers record right now? 3-5, 4-4, 4-3.
4-3.
Okay. Steve, what are your initial assessments this week? And going into this game, how you look at this?
Well, very happy to see Winston getting the ball out quickly. That was a big thing. He's like a half a second quicker than Watson, and you can see how it was beneficial. They ran the ball when they needed to and when they had to, which made, like Jarrell said, the play action pass work. So, and then wide receivers got open. I mean, that big 38-yard catch and run by Jerry Jeudy is supposed to how this offense is supposed to work. Short pass, yards after the catch, and you saw that. And you also saw Elijah Moore do what he does best when he has a quarterback who's throwing in the ball. He gets open.
Yeah.
So, the Chargers, Hebert is 2-0 versus the Browns lifetime. The good news is they really don't know what to expect the Browns to do on offense because they've only had one game, Ken Dorsey's offense. So that's the only game tape they've got. So that's good news.
Yeah.
But the Chargers started out trying to play smash mouth football, run the ball. It didn't really work. And they had a week 5 bye. And then after that week 5 bye, they put the ball in Hebert's hands. And they
so we should expect to see a lot
on the Saints.
Yeah, see a lot more throwing the ball from the Chargers in this game.
Well, they're going to try to run the ball. They got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And the Browns defense knows both those guys very well. And J.K. Dobbins always scares the crap out of me because he's just that kind of running back. I mean, he's the kind of running back that drives the Browns crazy.
Let me step back and just talk a little bit about, we've talked about, there's a lot of things that went into last week, a lot of changes that happened going into last week. Jameis Winston, the quarterback. I on my show, and I disagree with probably most of you in here, but I just feel like the change of quarterback made a huge difference, far more than a lot of people want to, or more than some of you will want to say. I just felt like there's this energy again, kind of like we had with Joe Flacco, and maybe I'll be completely wrong and he'll lay an egg this week against the Chargers. I don't think he's going to. I find it interesting that you have, I said on my podcast that, obviously Joe Flacco had 5 of these, but 6 of the last 7 games without Watson quarterbacking, the Browns have thrown for over 300 yards. I suspect they're going to do that this game. I think Winston completed 27 passes, 20 of those to wide receivers in this game, which I thought was in, like you mentioned, Elijah Moore. Jerry Jeudy got in. Tillman had his career game. Fantastic stuff there. Just happy to see it. And he's people were executing. So I don't know. Like, my feeling on it when I did my show the other night was like, I just feel like the players really were more motivated because, one, we saw the team score 20 points, or they got 29 points, right?
29.
So
29.
That was a big deal, wasn't it? Like when that happened, they cleared that threshold. It's like, hey, we scored 20 points. So I don't know. What are your just Winston? I mean, obviously there's other parts of the team that are very important. I just think having him there, and I know that he can be Jekyll and Hyde. He can do a lot of great things, but he can also throw interceptions. And, the fact is that Hamilton dropped that interception, which quite honestly, at the end of that game, I mean, if he catches it, we're talking about another loss. So that's how close it was. What are your assessments on Winston going into this game? What do you think will happen? And I think he's going to have another good game. Anybody want to go? Jarrell?
Well, he can't throw interceptions against the Chargers.
Yeah.
They're +6 in turnover ratio. They have a defensive lineman that has more interceptions than our secondary. So he's got 1. He's got to play within the game plan. He can't improvise. He's got to play within the game plan.
Yeah.
And you know, he like I said, he almost threw 3 interceptions. You know, Lamar Jackson almost threw 2.
Yes.
But the Chargers aren't going to drop easy interceptions. So let's just hope that Jameis stays within the game plan.
Did you say, or Jarrell, before, are we the San Diego? I mean, the Chargers are top 10 defense?
I believe they're top 10. I'll look it up real quick. But
okay.
I was going to answer your question. What I'm confused about is this team, you know, when I watch the practices, I don't see them doing full 11 on 11 scrimmages. I don't know if you all can attest to whether they do that during the week or if they did it during training camp. But I find it kind of concerning that if you're the head coach or any coach on this coaching staff, that one player, if we're going to say that the quarterback has been the problem, even if we go back to Baker Mayfield, if the quarterback has been the problem, and then you put a couple of journeymen at this stage of their careers, backups in, and the offense clicks, what is it that they're not seeing to get that out of the quarterback they're paying $200 million? That's what confuses me. And so this game is I don't know what to expect of this game, because I still think the strength of this team for the last 5 years has been running the ball and playing defense. But I think every time, you can point to every time that this team slipped up, Steve already knows what I'm about to say. They got away from running the football, and they got too finesse, and they got too cute. So if Jameis Winston has another 3 touchdown game, I still don't think it's really going to be indicative of anything, because at this point, they're not playing with house money. They got to basically run the table, because everybody they're playing, with the exception of the Saints, is a conference game. And they're ahead of them in the standings. So it's going to take some real coaching. And I just don't know if they have that at the head too.
Sure. No, I know it. Yeah. Anybody else want to? Sam, you have any thoughts on that whole topic?
Yeah, I think there should have been a lot of interceptions in that Ravens game. We should have had 3. They should have had multiple. It was really lucky and really unlucky for the Ravens. I think it is if that same thing happened against the Chargers, we wouldn't have had 0 interceptions. We would have had 2 or 3. We got to figure something out. We got to be careful about that. But that's just what Jameis Winston does sometimes, and there's not really anything you can do about it.
Well, I was impressed. I mean, the fact that Winston hasn't had a game like he just did with the Browns, like with any team in recent memory. I mean, you go back and look at his. I mean, I was saying before the game, Steve, the last 10 games that he's played in or started, dating back to 2021, he's 6-4, had 18 touchdowns, I think 8 interceptions. He didn't. I don't think ever got over the 300 mark. So I mean, just little thing. I don't know. I mean, no, I don't. If they concentrate on running the ball going into this game, so Chubb had 16 carries last game. He had 11 the first game, 16 this one. I would suspect it's probably going to be similar number probably for Chubb again. Boy, do you ever it looked like he had a couple plays in that game last week where he almost got one, he had the one that went for 15 yards, and they get another one that went for like 7 or 8, but he had several that he got stopped, at the line. I suspect that once he gets his legs under him, he'll even be more deadly. Do you guys agree with that with Chubb?
Well, some of it occurred because he ran behind DeJuan Jones. Don't get me wrong, DeJuan Jones, great pass protector, not a very good run blocker. And he missed quite a few. He did decent.
Yeah.
He did than Jedrick Wills on one leg. I'll tell you that. But the encouraging thing about Nick Chubb, you could see the vision, you could see the cutback. Yeah. So it's just that he's still getting into game shape. He's in tremendous shape.
Yeah.
Considering he had surgery, but the good news is He averages he has his best games against the San Diego Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
He averages like something 7.8 yards a carry against the Chargers, and that's an all-time best against the team for him.
He had an electric game, that one that they lost a couple years ago with Baker was still there.
If they had a kicker who could kick, they would have won that game.
Yeah.
Is that the one when they went out to LA?
Yeah, there's the one in LA is what I'm reflecting on.
I'm talking about the one in Cleveland.
Here,
called,
right. That was 2 years ago.
For a defensive pass interference when it was the offensive player pushed off.
Yes, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah. I'm still angry about that, if you can tell. And Cade York has 2 kicks.
Nick Chubb's, there was that one play, I think it was middle of the game somewhere, where he went for 10 or 15 yards, where he had that incredible cutback where you don't see other backs do that. He got right behind the one they were talking about. I think it was maybe Wyatt Teller, but just that little crease. And that's what Nick Chubb can do that, like Jerome Ford and these other guys that we talk about, can never do. And that's what makes him so different. Congratulations, Jim, too. He climbed the ladder. He's now number 3 all time. He passed Mike Pruitt last week, and he's only behind Leroy Kelly by, I think, now under 700 yards. So I don't know if he'll reach that, but he's got 9 games. He'd have to have a couple really stellar performances. I don't know if he's ready to do that yet, but anybody else have anything about Nick before we move on?
Well, I got the defensive stats for you here real quick.
Okay.
According to Pro Football Reference, the Chargers are number 1 in team defense, number 5 in passing defense, and number 7 in rushing defense.
Okay, so they're really.
But again, as Steve said, Nick Chubb tends to shred them to pieces. So, and I'm not really worried about Chubb if he doesn't get going early. That's where the mind-boggling thing about this team is you still got to stay consistent with the run, because when you get away from the run, in my opinion, you become finesse. I think a big reason that they won against the Ravens was, I don't know if you saw when Greg Delpit hit Derrick Henry and hit him with the too small gesture, but that was indicative of last year. They were crack back blocking people. They were pushing people around. They weren't afraid of Derrick Henry. They let Lamar Jackson, get loose. But for the most part, I think they won the battle in the trenches. So I think even with these stellar defensive numbers for the Chargers, if they can stay true to winning the trenches, I think they give themselves an excellent chance to win.
I like it. Yeah. Let's pause for a quick break here. We're the Fanatical Elfz Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks for coming back to us here on the Fanatical Elfz. You can download us on Apple, on Spotify. That's where we all make the big bucks. Fans First Sports Network. Some of these guys here write for Fans First. So listen to or read their stuff. I know Steve has it does a couple articles, or at least one, right, a week you do for them.
I do a preview article every week. It'll be out Saturday morning. Yeah.
And then Sam has his Browns breakdowns, and Jarrell has his dog food radio programming. Also his dog food apparel, dog radio. Yes. Where you're wearing some of it right now, right?
Dog food store apparel. Yes. So this is the CLE script hat.
That's an awesome hat. And Sam needs to send me his Christmas wish list.
It's not much of a wish list. It's going to end up being like 2 shirts. And I'll have to pick between which one I want, but
yes. Okay. Well, toss a coin and then you can let me know.
Yep.
Did you guys see the rendition of this came out yesterday? I think this dome thing they want to build on the lake. I think it's not happening. Somebody, I don't know who did that, but anybody see that story? Steve,
yeah,
you're
going to cost twice as much and take 10 years to build. That's all you need to know. So it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, the whole now have the Browns, they never officially said we're building the dome in Brook Park yet, right? They're just saying we're still exploring our options.
They're waiting for infrastructure money.
Okay.
Because, you got to move things around. You got to have roads.
When do we suspect that happening?
Oh, they've got to put a shovel in the ground the day after the season ends. That's when they got to start digging.
What, they have to be in somewhere else by 2029, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they've got to start construction right after the season ends. So it'll get taken care of. As soon as these local Cleveland politicians realize that all this grandstanding ain't going to do them a damn bit of good.
Back to the game here. Jedrick Wills came back to practice. Steve, you mentioned that off air.
Surprise! He's about to lose his starting job.
Well, he's
motivated now.
Yes. There were some really good things. I mean, he's coming back, but just going back to that game last week and looking forward to this week with, somebody like him coming back. The penalties were knocked way down. Do you give credit to Kevin Stefanski? Oh, they had 7 still? Boy, it didn't seem like
5 on offense.
Yeah. Didn't seem like 7.
Well, they didn't really. It really didn't kill him. I mean, that last touchdown, it was 1st and 15.
Yeah. And Hopkins made his field goals, right?
Got
a kicker again.
Ricochet. Ricochet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that one that he hit. Jesus, Jiminy. Seeing Kevin Stefanski without the Denny's menu was interesting.
He didn't look comfortable. I thought he looked very uncomfortable standing there.
Did you see the whole interaction with Bubba Ventrone? How he came over and then Kevin shoot him away? I thought that was an interesting moment toward the end. I don't wonder what Bubba was trying to tell him, but that's a tough spot. I mean, I've coached before. Some of you guys have coached. It's when somebody else is, you're trying to do something on the field, or you're talking or something, and then somebody else comes by and says something to you while you're kind of in a moment. So I can understand, that when you're coaching.
He was talking to offensive players. He was talking to defensive players. He was talking to special teams players. He was the CEO coach, which is what everybody wanted him to be.
Does he have an earpiece that kind of goes into other, like the other players have helmets that have so that people are talking? Is that when
the quarterback have, and the guy in defense who wears the green dot? Don't know who it's going to be this week because Jordan Hicks hadn't practiced and JOK is not going to play until after.
Denzel Ward. Tell us about Denzel Ward's latest.
He's still in percussion. He's still in concussion protocol.
Yeah, so, that really worries
Martin
me.
Emerson's really going to have to step up and cover Ladd McConkey this week.
I'm sorry, like Denzel Ward, that's got to be what, 6 now?
That's his 6th.
I just think he needs to stop. I hate seeing these guys keep getting concussions because we know as elders and you get older, that's going to have a real bearing on his lifestyle. And I don't.
Didn't Greg Williams say that it's the way he tackled? And he was trying to tell him to tackle different.
Yeah.
I thought I heard Greg Williams say that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Gosh.
Leads with his head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not good.
Anything else out there this week with the Browns? It's not been like super loud. There's been a lot of positivity this week. I think the Browns fans are just happy that they got a win. Now
this might be the biggest, the best. This might be the happiest fan base with a 2-6 team,
right,
that I've ever seen.
Right.
Yep.
That I've ever seen. and to me, it's indicative of mediocrity. And I know I'm probably the anti-Stefanski person on here, and I hate to keep piling on him. But to me, you watch these guys at practice every day. You didn't think to make a quarterback change before the season was over or almost over, or to give up play calling.
See, but this is where I disagree. I still think that it wasn't his decision. And I'll go to my grave believing that. I know, Steve, you're going to disagree with me 100%. But
believing that it's his decision.
Okay,
it's in his contract. Andrew Berry picks the 53. Kevin picks the game day roster. It's in his contract. That's how his contract is written. So
because I'm with Jarrell. I don't see.
But the ownership group did not put any pressure for him to start Watson. But an interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
After this game and the success they had and the way the offense moved the ball, right now the ownership group is going to take a long, hard look at the possibility of if this continues. Say they win some more games. Say they finish 8 and 9 and just out of the playoffs. Which is feasible. I mean, they can go 6 and 3 these last 9 games if you look at their competition.
Sure.
The ownership group will really have to sit down and think about what they're going to do with Watson next year.
Oh, he's never coming back.
They can make him a June 1st cut. They can make it. They can make him a June 1st cut in 2026 and absorb the dead cap for 2 years, 2026 and 2027. But next year it would be a full $92 million. But if you got to bench him and play him and sit him at $46 million, they're going to try and
insurance. What about this $60 million in insurance? I thought that
it wasn't $60 million. It was 14.5.
Okay,
and they get a little.
Why am I hearing 60? Then why?
Because you're not listening to the right people. You need to listen to Jack Duffin.
Okay.
Who listens to the guys over the cap, who know what the hell is going on. Okay. And it's like 2.8 million. They're going to get about 6-7 million in cap relief from the insurance.
Okay.
For the games he's not going to play.
For the rest of this season.
This season.
Okay. See, I just don't think he'll be. But he will not be. If he. Well, let me just say this: if the Browns run it into the ground and they start losing again after all this euphoria, okay. But the other thing about this, Steve, is like that injury, right? The injury that he suffered, like it's the end of October. I can't see he will not be ready to go.
Well, he's going to he's going to have the same surgery Aaron Rodgers had.
Okay. And I know he's younger than Aaron Rodgers, but still, I mean, I don't know. I could see them putting him on the PUP list at the beginning of next season. But
if he's still on the team. Let's just put it this way.
If he's in the
team. They
go
8 and 9 and they look good and they're winning, it's going to be an open topic after the end of the season. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
That's the best I can do.
No, I know.
They should. They should. No. If they go out and this team, if they win 6 out of the last 9 games, then they've got to sit down and seriously consider what they're going to do with Deshaun Watson. They have to.
Can I ask one question? I want to ask one question. Because you're talking about the organization and what they would do, if they were 6 and 3. All right. When the Flacco thing happened last year, I don't understand why a guy that's making $230 million couldn't deal with them keeping Flacco on the team, because he had success in the system, blah, blah, blah. It's insurance. Hey, you're a pro. So I guess it confuses me as to what does the organization base their decisions on? Because let's just say they do go 8 and 9. Yeah, you can make the case that they need to part ways with him either way. But okay, let's say you part ways with him. You starting the season with Jameis Winston next season?
I am, but I mean, there might be something else out there. I mean, there's a draft.
Jameis Winston, if he goes 6 and 3 down the stretch, he's going to price himself out of what the Browns can afford. So there's the other side of the coin.
Right.
Okay.
But
so I don't know what the plan is. Like that just
they're going to cross that bridge when they get to it. Right now they want to get through this season. And you're going to get Nick Chubb healthy, and you're going to get him back to being Nick Chubb for 2025.
Yeah.
And you're going to have plenty of money to spend, even if they spend $6 million of the $46 million they have this year, they'll roll over $40 million. They'll get money back from bonuses and incentives. The cap's supposed to be $255, and then Jimmy pays upfront cash $50 million more than any other team. So they could potentially go into next season with $350 million to spend.
Wow.
And
that's the way the CBA is written.
When you explain it,
so you could potentially keep him and sit him, and it wouldn't hurt you. They'd still be competitive.
He can't take the field again, or I just can't see him. I refuse to think that the Browns, to me, it's funny. The organization talks all this stuff about bringing Nick Chubb back and what he means to the organization, which is great. But I think it's ignorance or just dumbfoundedness on their part for them to not see what all of us have seen with Winston since Watson's been here.
When this deal happened, they swung for the fences. Okay.
Right.
You can sit here and go, well, this happened and this happened and this happened. But when the trade actually happened, when he became available and 13 teams were interested in him, everybody was going, well, you got to go get him. You got to get him. He's a franchise quarterback.
Sure.
In 2020, he was the best quarterback on a terrible team. Everybody agreed with it. It didn't turn out the way they wanted.
Yeah.
But they tried. They swung for the fences. And that's what fans want of their owner.
Yeah.
How many Guardians fans constantly complain about the Dolan family not spending money? Right?
Yeah.
Jimmy spends money.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get it. It's gonna be an interesting time moving forward.
Yes, it is. I just want to beat the Chargers. How about
final thoughts on that? And let's talk about that. The game. Sam, why don't you final takes on the game coming up? I figure you did your Browns breakdowns show yesterday. Where you think this goes? You are kind of, you think we're going to get the win?
I mean, again, I think a coin flip is more accurate. The Chargers are good, but they always have the problem of they are always a really good 10-7 wild card team. They can't seem to get more than that. They can't seem to get less than that. They very consistently are in the 9 to 10 win range. Justin Herbert, I mean, he's sometimes good, he's sometimes bad. Their defense is pretty good, but their defense is sometimes bad. You never know what you're going to get with the Chargers. But I think the Browns, if they can continue this, if this momentum that they built up over this past game and this win over the Ravens can continue, then I think they can win. But if I don't know how, I feel like the Ravens game was a bit of a fluke. I feel like they're going to revert to the mean again. They're going to go back to the average, and they're going to still be good, but not great like they were last game. I think a coin flip is your best bet.
Okay. Well, I'm going to flip a coin before the game and see what happens.
Yeah.
Jarrell, final thoughts on this week, next week?
Well, thoughts on this week. I think you got to run the ball. You do what you do best. Play action, get receivers open. But I want to make one quick comment on the foundation. We talk a lot about foundation on this show. The Dallas Cowboys paid Dak Prescott $65 million. And I want y'all to ask yourself, if Deshaun Watson had been playing like that and they had the same record as the Cowboys, he would still be getting murdered. Dak Prescott isn't getting the same criticism, but let's be honest. The Dallas Cowboys are going in the wrong direction because they made a stupid signing. I don't think no quarterback should get paid that much money.
Yeah.
So I think the Browns going forward
yeah.
should look at what they just did with this Watson situation. You gave up all that capital as far as draft picks, and you signed them to this massive deal. You don't have to do that. If you part ways with Watson and Winston and whatever you decide to do, if you just put out a solid defense, keep Chubb, get a serviceable quarterback back, that's enough. That's enough.
Okay, but I think I agree with everything you said there, except for the Prescott thing. I think it's, well, I don't know. You're down there in Dallas, Sam. I mean, I think you're right, Jarrell. He doesn't get the same, but I think that doesn't have to do with everything else that's off the field of play.
Prescott is getting killed, by the way, down here. I listen to all the sports radio. They interview Jerry and Steven. and all the guys in Prescott's getting killed pretty constantly around here.
Okay. Well, as he should, because he's not worth $65 million, but they're idiots for paying him. You just got blown out in the playoffs last season.
Yeah.
You make a position the most important thing where you literally physically cannot win anything past a wild card game without it, and then you have to pay them $65 million. It sucks, but it's like if you made
Trevor Lawrence, right? Didn't they pay him $1 billion in this offseason?
It was a lot, but it's the same thing if you made and manipulated the rules of soccer so much that a striker position, you physically can't score goals without having a striker, and then you make it so the striker value has to go up because you can't win games without it. And so I think this is just the consequences of making the quarterback the most important position in the entire game.
That's a good good perspective there. Yeah. But Jarrell, I agree with you. Nick Chubb, good defense. Just get a guy that can manage the games. Kind of like a Baker Mayfield, but okay.
Ran him out of town too.
Steve, final thoughts.
Well, he wasn't mature enough back then, and Carolina and Los Angeles ran him out of town too.
I know they did. I'm
I
happy
agree. They got to run the ball.
Yeah.
Last week against supposedly the best run defense in the NFL, the Ravens were ranked number 1 against the run.
Uh-huh.
They managed to run when they had to, both with Nick Chubb and Foreman. Very encouraged by that. And like Jarrell says, if you run the ball, it sets up the play action, and that's where Jameis Winston is at his best.
Yeah.
San Diego plays a lot of zone. They play no man-to-man defense in their secondary. None. They play strictly zone, which leaves the middle of the field open. So all Jameis Winston has to do on offense is stay in the game plan. Mm-hmm. Just stay in the game plan, and they got a shot. On defense, I'm curious to see what they're going to do without 2 starting linebackers. And as I've been telling you guys for 2 years, I love Mahmoud Diabate. I've always loved Mahmoud Diabate. I can see the way this kid has been playing. And Devin Bush stepped up last week when JOK went down.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
The 2 new linebackers, the Winston kid off the practice squad shows some promise. No Denzel Ward, so Martin Emerson, Cameron Mitchell's probably
maybe Martin Emerson gets that interception we've been wanting him to get.
The good news is all 3 of their safeties are healthy and ready to go on defense. As for the quarterback thing, you're right. They only need a competent quarterback. Just remember, next year, do you really think Sam Darnold is still going to be with the Vikings after J.J. McCarthy gets healthy? No, he's not. Do you really think Kirk Cousins is going to be your starting quarterback in Atlanta when they got Penix sitting on the bench?
Well, I'll tell you what,
quarterback
Kirk Cousins
right now, just saying right now, could be available.
I love Kirk Cousins. He's got his background. He grew up in that state up north and grew up in Holland, where I went to college. And he's a stand-up guy. He'd be one of those veterans that bring him in for a year. Cool.
Draft Shedeur Sanders and put him on the bench, and then let Kirk Cousins play a year.
Oh, I want nothing to do with Mr. Sanders.
I don't either. I'm just saying he's
too much of a head case for Cleveland, Ohio.
I think there are decent quarterbacks. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be it.
There are no decent quarterbacks in this draft. This is
for this draft. There aren't any decent quarterbacks in terms of actual drafting, but in terms of this draft class,
not in this draft.
It's pretty bad.
Man, it is bad.
Well, happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Halloween. And we're November 1st tomorrow, so look forward to that.
We're not absolutely annihilating the Bengals like we were last year. We're whooping them in spirit.
We're working on we'll have I will not actually be here Sunday. Well, I'll be at the game Sunday. So if any of you gents want to do a pregame show, we can talk off air, but we'll have some shows this weekend for everybody that's tuning in or watching or going to listen to us. So stay tuned for that. These guys do great jobs every week, bringing great content. And we look forward to hearing you again later this week. So Steve, thank you. Jarrell, thank you. Sam, thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.